Witness, you heard Himmler's Kharkov speech in April 1943 to the commanding officers of the 3 SS divisions in the East, did you not?
Diese Rede habe ich gehört.
And you remember that he ended his speech by saying, "We will never let that excellent weapon, the dread and terrible reputation which preceded us in the battles for Kharkov, fade, but will constantly add new meaning to it." Do you remember him saying that?
Jawohl.
And your units of the Waffen-SS constantly added new meaning to your reputation for terror, did you not?
Nein, ich habe das Gegenteil gestern und heute zum Ausdruck gebracht. Ich habe es als eine Beschimpfung betrachtet, dass unsere Erfolge vom Terror abhängen. Ich habe im Gegenteil gesagt, dass die Erfolge nur durch tapferen Einsatz von Führer und Mann erkämpft worden sind.
Yesterday, you told the tribunal that the relations of the Waffen-SS with the local population were good, and that your Waffen-SS troops did not take hostages or destroy villages as punishments or commit war crimes. That was your evidence, was it not?
Ich habe gesagt, dass die Beziehungen einwandfrei und gut waren. Dass wir keine Teile der Bevölkerung abschoben für Aufgaben in der Heimat.
I want you to listen now to some documents that I'm going to put in with regard to the SS generally and with regard to the Waffen-SS in particular. First, 2 documents from your own sources. The first, my lord, is document D419, which will be GB 552. Yes. I'm not proposing to cross-examine the witness as to these numerous documents, my lord. It appears to be the desire of the tribunal that they should be put in as speedily as possible.
If they're new documents, you can cross-examine upon them.
If your lordship pleases. The first document, D419, is a report by a general of artillery named Detzel, dated the 23rd of November 1939, with regard to the internal situation in the Wartegau, Western Poland, incorporated into the Reich, as the document describes it. I needn't trouble you with the first page of the document, the report of the 2nd of December, or the letter of the 30th of November. But if you read the letter of General Detzel, dated the 23rd of November 1939, the second paragraph reads, "The great work of construction in all spheres is not furthered by the intervention of SS formations who are given special racial political tasks and are not subordinated to the Reich governor in this. Here the tendency makes itself felt of interfering decisively in all spheres of administration beyond the framework of these tasks and of forming a state within the state. This phenomenon does not fail to have its effect on the troops who are indignant about the ways the tasks are carried out and thereby generally get into opposition to administration and party. I shall exclude the danger of serious differences by strict orders. The fact that this makes a serious demand on the discipline of the troops cannot be dismissed without further ado." And then the next paragraph, "In almost all large towns, public shootings have been carried out by the organizations mentioned in this. The selection varied enormously and was often incomprehensible. The way it was carried out frequently unworthy. In some districts, all the Polish estate owners were arrested and interned with their families. arrests were almost always accompanied by looting. In the towns, evacuations were carried out, during which blocks of houses were cleared at random, the inhabitants loaded onto lorries at night, then taken to concentration camps. Here also looting was a constant accompanying phenomenon. The quartering and feeding in the camps was such that the Corps Chief Medical Officer feared the outbreak of epidemics and thus endangering of the troops. In several towns, actions against the Jews were carried out which turned into the most serious excesses. In Turok, 3 SS cars, under the leadership of a higher SS leader, drove through the streets on the 30th of October 1939, while the people in the streets were hit on the heads at random with horsewhips and long whips. Amongst the victims were also people of German blood. Finally, a number of Jews were driven into the synagogue, there had to crawl in between the benches while singing, during which time they were continuously whipped by the SS men. They were then forced to take down their trousers in order to be hit on the bare behind. A Jew who out of fright had dirtied his trousers was forced to smear the excrement into the faces of the other Jews. In Lodz, it has become known confidentially that SS Oberführer Melhorn has issued the following orders. 1. From the 9th of November, no unemployment relief may any longer be paid to Poles and Jews, only forced labor is paid for. This measure has already been confirmed. From the 9th of November, Jews and Poles will be excluded from the distribution of rationed foodstuffs and coal. Third, unrest and incidents are to be created by provocation in order to facilitate the carrying out of racial political work. The rest of the document I needn't trouble you with. Now that is an insight into the activities of the SS in Poland in November 1939. The next German document is the document D578. My Lord, my attention has been drawn to another sentence in the document D419, which I would like to draw the tribunal's attention to. The last sentence but one, as the military commander of Posen has already reported to the High Command of the Army, the men feel very strongly about the disproportion between their pay and the many times higher daily rate of pay of other formations. The document D578 is a report by a German brigade commander of the 1st Mountain Brigade, Colonel Perichik. It is dated the 26th of September 1943. This document, my Lord, will be GB 553. It's a report on the activities of the SS units in the area of Popovaca in Bosnia. I only want to trouble you with the first 2 paragraphs. On the 16th of September 1943, an SS unit of 80 men marched from Popovaca to Osekovo for the compulsory purchase of cattle. I was not notified by anybody about the arrival of this unit in the technical operational area of the 1st Mountain Brigade, and about the activity of this unit in the area for which I alone am responsible. A short time after their arrival in Osekovo, this unit was attacked by partisans. Under the pressure of the numerically superior partisans, this unit had to retreat in the direction of the railway station, which they succeeded in doing. But they had 4 men seriously and several lightly wounded. Among them the unit commander. 1 man was missing, and they also lost an armored car. The unit commander then reported from Popovaca by telephone that when he had to retreat, he had killed all persons who were in the open because he had no chance to distinguish between the loyal population and the partisans. He himself said that he killed about 100 persons in this incident. And now I want to put in some documents from the victims of some of these atrocities. First, from the Yugoslav delegation, the document D945. Witness, you appreciate that the Prince Eugen division was a division of the Waffen-SS, do you not?
Witness, did you hear that question?
Witness, I asked you...
Jawohl, die Division gehört zu der Waffen-SS.
The document D945, my lord, will be GB 554, is an extract from a report of the Yugoslav State Commission for ascertaining the crimes of the occupiers and their accomplices. I want to read the second and third paragraphs. In accordance with the order of the commander of the 118th German Division, an SS battalion of the Prince Eugen Division and a battalion of the Teufels Division, under the command of the German Lieutenant Colonel Dietsche, carried out on the 27th of March 1944 and on the following days a purge action from Sinch in the direction of various villages whose names are set out. On the 28th of March, this SS battalion overran the villages of Otok Koronji, Ruda, and Dolak Dolnji, one after the other, and carried out horrible massacres, destructions by fire and looting. They murdered on a single day, in the three above-named Dalmatian villages, 834 people, apart from grown-up men, also women and children, set on fire 500 houses, and looted everything there was to be looted. They removed rings, watches, and other valuables from the dead bodies. The mass slaughter was carried out in all the villages in the same horrible manner. The German soldiers gathered women, children, and men in one place, and then opened fire on the crowd with machine guns, threw bombs at them, looted their property, and set them on fire. In the house Milanovic Trapo, 45 burned bodies were found. In another house in the same village of Otok, 22 unburned corpses were found in a pile. In the village of Ruda, they collected all the people in one place and killed all of them. Those who happened not to be collected were killed where they were found. Not even the smallest babies at their mother's breasts were spared. In some places, the victims were soaked in petrol and set on fire. They also killed those who offered them hospitality out of fear. They also killed those people who were forced to follow them to carry their ammunition and other things. According to the evidence of reliable witnesses, the massacres were prepared beforehand, and all this the more so as the above-mentioned villages gave no reason whatsoever previous to the purge action for any kind of reprisals. And that report is signed by the President of the State Commission, Dr. Nedeljkovic, University professor. And then the document D940, which is another, which will be GB 555, which is another extract from a Yugoslav State Commission report signed by the same President of the State Commission, Dr. Nedeljkovic, on the crimes of the SS, the 7th SS Division, the Prince Eugen, in Montenegro. It reads, the various German divisions operating in the area of occupied Yugoslavia marked their path by traces of devastation and annihilation of the peaceful population, which will testify to the criminal character of the German conduct of the war for many years to come. The operations of the German divisions were in reality punitive expeditions. They destroyed and burnt down whole villages and exterminated the civil population in a barbarous manner without any military necessity whatsoever. The 7th SS Prince Eugen Division is famed for its cruelty. Then I go to the next paragraph. Wherever it passed, through Serbia, through Bosnia and Herzegovina, through Lika and Banija, so through Dalmatia, everywhere it left behind scenes of conflagration and devastation and the bodies of innocent men, women and children who had been burnt in the houses. At the end of May 1943, the division Prince Eugen came to Montenegro, to the area of Miksik, in order to take part in the 5th enemy offensive in conjunction with the Italian troops. This offensive was called Offensive Black by the German occupying forces. Proceeding from Herzegovina, parts of the division fell upon the various fell upon the peaceful villages of the Nikšić district. Immediately after its invasion, this formation, opening fire with all its arms, commenced to commit outrageous crimes on the peaceful villages for no reason at all. Everything they came across they burnt down, murdered and pillaged. The officers and men of the SS Division Prince Eugen committed crime of an outrageous cruelty on this occasion. The victims were shot, slaughtered and tortured, or burnt to death in burning houses. Where a victim was found not in his house, but on the road or in the field some distance away, he was murdered there. Infants were their mothers.
The copy I've got says murdered and burnt there.
Oh, yes, well, he was murdered and burnt there. Yes, well. Infants were their mothers. Pregnant women and frail old people were also murdered. In short, every civilian met with by these troops in these villages was murdered. In many cases, whole families who, not expecting such treatment, or lacking the time for escape, had remained quietly in their homes, were annihilated and murdered. Whole families were thrown into burning houses in many cases and thus burnt. It has been established from the investigations entered upon that 121 persons, mostly women and including 30 persons aged 60 to 92 years, and 29 children of ages ranging from 6 months to 14 years, were executed on this occasion in the horrible manner narrated above. The villages, and then there follows a list of about half a dozen of them, were burnt down and razed to the ground. Then there's an account of the destruction of furniture. Besides this, the German soldiers drove all the cattle away from all the villages, and before burning them down, stole household utensils, clothing, food, jewelry, money, etc. Then, over the next page, for all of these most serious war crimes, those responsible, besides the actual culprits, the members of the SS Division Prince Eugen, are all superior and all subordinate commanders as the persons issuing and transmitting the orders for murder and devastation. Among others, the following war criminals are known: SS Gruppenführer and Lieutenant General of the Waffen-SS Fleps, Divisional Commander; Major General of the Waffen-SS von Oberkampf, Commander of the 13th Regiment, later Divisional Commander; Major General Schmidt-Huber, Commander of the 14th Regiment, later Divisional Commander; SS Standartenführer Bachmann, SS Sturmbahnführer Dilcher, Battalion Commander of the 14th Regiment. And then there follows names of about another 10 high-ranking German SS regimental and other commanders.
Well, shouldn't you ask whether they are Waffen-SS?
Those men, witness, were members of the Waffen-SS, were they not? Just look at the names of them.
Ein Teil von diesen Namen kenne ich. Die waren Führer in der Waffen-SS.
Well, let's take them in turn. Fleps, Divisional Commander.
Jawohl.
He was a Lieutenant General like yourself, wasn't he? One of your colleagues of the Waffen-SS.
Jawohl.
And Major General of the Waffen-SS von Oberkampf, Ritter Karl. He was an SS commander, was he not?
Die nächsten Namen sind mir bekannt. Oberkampf, Schmidhuber und Ditsche. Die übrigen kenne ich nicht.
But you don't deny that there were officers, from the description of them at any rate, that they were officers of the Waffen-SS.
Ich nehme es an, wenn ich auch nicht weiß, wo dieser Bericht herstammt. Der wahrscheinlich nur Nachrichten, die auf mündlichen Wege entstanden sind, hier in irgendeiner Form zusammengestellt ist.
I won't trouble you with the value of the reports as documents, witness. That's a matter for the tribunal. And now I want you to listen to documents which I'm putting in on behalf of the Polish delegation, again relating to the SS. The first series of documents relate to the shooting of hostages on the command of SS functionaries and by SS men. The first is the document 4041 PS, which will be GB 556, which consists of 31 posters for the years 1943 to 1944, signed by the chief of the SS and police in Warsaw, or in some cases by the commander of the security police and of the SD for Warsaw, announcing the killing of hostages. The tribunal will see that in those grim records of murder, there are listed varying numbers of the victims of the Nazi occupation. In poster number 25, for instance, on page 16, there is a list of 270 shot hostages. On poster 29, page 20, there are 200 shot hostages. Poster 31, page 26, there are 100 shot hostages. These SS shootings were certainly not an original SS conception, and I hand in two documents, 4038 PS and 4039 PS, which are...
Mr. Elwyn Jones, I think you should ask the witness whether there's any, or put to him whether there's any connection between the Waffen-SS and this document.
If your lordship please.
Ich habe leider ein englisches Exemplar hier. Ich beherrsche die Sprache nicht völlig und habe nicht folgen können. Ich habe entnommen, dass das alles Maßnahmen sind, die in Warschau passiert sind. In Warschau hat die Waffen-SS, genauso wie bei dem ersten vorgelegten Schreiben, wo es vom Wartegau handelte, hat die Waffen-SS nichts zu tun gehabt. Das sind sicher Männer gewesen.
Wait until you're given the proper copy.
Is there a German? Have you a German copy? I'm not suggesting necessarily, my lord, that all the documents I'm putting in relate only to the Waffen-SS branch of the SS organization. The whole prosecution case on the SS is that there was a unity between the various sections of it.
Yes, but I think you should give him the opportunity of making his point if he wishes to.
If your lordship please. Have you had an opportunity of looking at those posters now, witness?
Ich habe gesehen, dass die Unterschriften sind nur SS- und Polizeiführer, die mit der Waffen-SS, wie auch heute schon ausgeführt ist, nichts zu tun haben. Und dasselbe muss ich noch nachholen über die Ereignisse im Wartegau, wo im November 1939 Einheiten der Waffen-SS nicht gewesen sind. Von den Dokumenten betrifft die eigentliche Waffen-SS nur das Dokument 3 und 4, wo über die SS-Division Prinz Eugen gesprochen wird. Deren Unterlagen kann ich nicht nachprüfen. Ich bin auf dem Balkan nie gewesen.
Was the Teufels division also Waffen-SS? Was the Teufels division?
Nein, eine Division, Teufelsdivision hat es nie gegeben.
You say there never was a Devil's division in Yugoslavia?
In der Waffen-SS nicht.
I should be able to call some subsequent testimony with regard to that, my lord. If the tribunal would allow me at a later stage to cross-examine on the whole question of the unity of the SS, it would involve putting old documents, and I understand there was certain reluctance on the part of the tribunal to permit me to do that. But I should be quite content to draw the tribunal's attention to...
Mr. Elwyn Jones, the tribunal don't desire you not to cross-examine, but only not to read out and put to the witness documents which have already been put in. You can put the facts which are in the documents to the witness for the purpose of cross-examination.
Your lordship pleases. Then, at a later stage in my cross-examination, I'll return to that subject, if I may be permitted to do so. I should like to put these documents in first, if I may.
Mr. Elwyn Jones, I think the only, what the tribunal meant was that it didn't want you to put long passages or short passages from a document which the witness has never seen and which is already in evidence, but that you may cross-examine the witness upon any document apart from that.
If your Lordship pleases. Then I shall return to cross-examination on this general issue after I put these documents in, if I may, my Lord. I put in the documents 4038 PS and 4039 PS, which will be GB 557 and 558, which shows that the SS shootings in Warsaw were continuations of the practice of the civil power in the government general from the period March 1941. I needn't trouble the witness with those documents. And then the document D956, which will be GB 559, which is an official Polish report on German crimes in Poland. I only desire the tribunal to draw the tribunal's attention to an entry on page 184 of that report relating to this shooting of hostages, which says that the approximate number of Poles killed in Warsaw from the beginning of the public executions until the rising, from October the 5th, 1943 until August the 1st, 1944, was about 8,000, most of whom had been caught in manhunts in the Warsaw streets. I next produce some documents relating to atrocities committed by the SS in connection with the destruction of Warsaw. First is the document 4042 PS, which will be GB 560, which consists of 3 affidavits from another official Polish report entitled The German Crime in Warsaw in 1944. The first affidavit is by the witness Alexandra Krekciewicz, who states that on the 2nd of August, the SS men issued an order for us to move to the house across the road. Our house, as well as the house next door, was set on fire. On the 3rd of August, I'll start the reading again. On the 2nd of August, the SS men issued an order for us to move to the house across the road. Our house, as well as the house next door, was set on fire. On the 3rd of August, we were informed that we would be shot. Several hundred persons were assembled in the house. On the 4th of August at 11 a.m., the Germans surrounded the house and gave the order to evacuate the apartments. There were awful cries of children and women, and we heard some shots. Several persons were killed and wounded at the exit. We were driven to potato fields, and still guarded, we were ordered to lie down. There could be no question of escape. A few minutes later, we were ordered to get up, and we were driven under a bridge which was nearby. At the question of one of the women, "Where are we being taken to?" we heard the answer, "German women and children are perishing by your fault, therefore all of you must perish." We were put in ranks, and a group of 70 people was separated from us and ordered to go behind the bridge on the hill. The rest, including myself, were put against the wall between barbed wires. From different points nearby, we heard shots. We were huddled together, and I was on the outer edge of the crowd. At a distance of 5 meters in front of us, one of the henchmen very quietly loaded his machine gun. Another one was preparing his camera. Several Germans were guarding us. We heard several shots, noises, groans. I fell down wounded and lost consciousness. After a while, I came back to my senses, and I heard how they were finishing up the wounded. I did not move, and I simulated death. They left one of the Germans on guard, and the rest of them went away. The henchmen set fire to the huts and the houses in the neighborhood. I was scorched by the heat and almost suffocated by the smoke, and my dress smoldered. The German was still on guard, so quietly I tried to put out the fire on me. Then she described how she ran to a cellar, and she says at the end, the group...
This is a woman, is it?
This is a woman, yes. At the end, the group of people shot in my presence numbered some 500 persons, of whom no more than 3 or 4 managed to escape. All the executioners were SS men. The next is an affidavit from the witness Bronislav Dilak, who describes the SS atrocities in a hospital in Warsaw. Very badly wounded in the stomach, I was hospitalized in the field hospital Dluga Street 7. On the 7th of September 1944, the Germans ordered the nurses and those of the inmates who were able to walk to abandon the hospital and the heavily wounded. I was in this latter group, and we stayed in the ward situated in the cellar. In the whole hospital, there were a few hundred sick and heavily wounded who could not abandon the hospital. Shortly after the nurses had left the hospital, in the evening, the German SS arrived. Shooting started. First, those were killed who, with a superhuman effort, left their beds and went to the doors and the staircases, waiting for the possibility to get out and save themselves. They were immediately killed by the Germans. 2 murderers burst into our ward. One had a candle in his hand. It was already dark. The other was killing, shooting from his pistol, the men lying in beds and shouting bandits. Together with a few of the inmates of our ward, I was saved, because the passage to our beds was obstructed by other beds. Our ward consisted of 2 different parts. I was in the second smaller part, the entrance to which was obstructed. In the first part, all were killed. The second ward was saved by a pure miracle. Maybe because somebody was calling the murderers away. We heard many shots from the other wards. The execution went on throughout the hospital. One of the other many Germans was checking whether everybody was dead. Then we were simulating death. One of my comrades lying near me stained himself with blood on his chest and head and was simulating death. One of the Germans, speaking Ukrainian, went about among the killed, striking them in their faces with his gun. It was a terrible night. During a certain moment, a hand grenade was thrown through the window into our ward. Finally, the building was set on fire. The fire spread very quickly. Those who tried to escape were killed. A woman in our ward tried to push the inflammable stuff away from the exit and to protect the ward from the fire. All other wards, as well as the staircase, were on fire. The smoke, the smell of burning corpses, indescribable thirst. And in the last sentence, thus out of several hundred heavily wounded at the hospital in Dluga Street 7, only a few score were left alive. And the third affidavit is by Maria Bukowska, who states that on the 7th of August 1944, by order of the SS, the people of the whole district had to abandon their houses, which were immediately set on fire. There were several thousands of us who were driven and pushed about by the SS. All who turned to look back, as well as anyone who tried to help, were beaten. Then further down in the statement, we go further on, there is shooting once more. A car full of SS men approaches. The officers get out, they inspect us, and take away from our ranks 3 young pretty girls, 2 sisters N and another girl unknown to me. The car goes away. The girls cry out, trying to defend themselves against the SS men. An old woman falls down. She can't go on anymore. An SS officer shoots her in the neck. Then it describes how in the church at Wola, the rest of our belongings is taken away from us. All the young girls, sometimes no more than 12 to 14, are left behind, while the older ones, with the children, are led to the Western Station and then by railway to Praskow. Those were crimes of the SS, weren't they, Witness?
Das war nicht die Waffen-SS, sondern das ist immer nur ein Teil von Männern, die zu Himmler gehörten, die mit der kämpfenden Truppe nichts zu tun hatten. Wir haben in Warschau nie gefochten.
Are you denying that the Waffen-SS took part in the destruction of Warsaw?
Ich bin nicht da gewesen, ich kann dazu nicht Stellung nehmen. Gekämpft ist aber meines Wissens dort nicht, sondern dort ist ein Aufstand niedergeschlagen worden, wo ja Zeugen schon hier auch drüber ausgesagt haben.
What there was a revolt and then mass extermination by SS troops. That's what happened in Warsaw, wasn't it?
Die Waffen-SS hat daran nur mit ganz geringen Teilen teilgenommen, denn die Waffen-SS stand am Feinde.
I next put in the document D954, which will be GB 561, which are depositions by Professor Tomkiewicz of the University of Warsaw and Dr. Lorenz, director of the National Museum in Warsaw, on the looting and deliberate piecemeal destruction of Warsaw by German formations, including SS men. I'm content to summarize those documents in that way. The next document is 2233 DDPS, which is a further extract from the diary of the defendant Frank, showing the cooperation between the SS and the civil power in the course of these murderous events. It is an entry from...
What is the reference?
2233 DDPS, my lord. It is GB 562. That is an entry from the diary of the defendant Frank for the 16th of October 1944. The Governor-General receives SS Oberführer Dierlewanger and SS Untersturmführer Ammann in the presence of SS Sturmbahnführer Pfaffenroth. SS Oberführer Dierlewanger reports to the Governor-General on the employment of his combat group in Warsaw. The Governor-General thanks SS Oberführer Dierlewanger and expresses to him his appreciation for the model employment of his combat group in the fighting in Warsaw. Lunch on the occasion of the presence of SS Oberführer Dierlewanger. Now, Dierlewanger was the commander of the units operating in Warsaw, was he not?
Can you offer any evidence as to what units these officers were commanding?
I'm just going to put it to this witness, my lord. Dierlewanger was the commander of the units operating in Warsaw, was he not?
Dierlewanger war Kommandeur einer Bewährungstruppe von Männern aus den Konzentrationslagern. Er hatte mit der Waffen-SS nichts zu tun. Ich habe ihn persönlich und seine Truppe nie kennengelernt, kann aus eigenem Wissen weiter nichts sagen.
Were the officers of his unit SS men?
Ich kann darüber nichts sagen, weil ich die Einheit nicht kenne.
I shall be producing further documentary evidence on this issue at a later stage, my lord. Now I want to put in affidavits dealing with the participation of the SS in cruelties against and extermination of the Jews, and this time there will be specific evidence as to the participation of the Waffen-SS in this matter. The first is Exhibit D939. Be GB 563. That is an affidavit by Israel Eisenberg, and he states, I lived in Lublin, and from there I was sent to Majdanek in the beginning of 1942. However, as a prisoner, I continued to work for the Germans, who employed me as an expert for electromechanical jobs in the various SS houses and SS offices in Lublin. I worked as an electromechanic in the palace building of the SS and police chief Globoknik, and in the headquarters of the SS in Lublin, Warschauer Street 21. The Waffen-SS were also there. On the outer wall, the notice SS Waffen could be seen, and on the pass which I received at the entrance, the words SS Waffen were also marked. I knew all the officers, for instance, Oberscharführer Riedel, Rottenführer Mohrwinkel, Unterscharführer Schrammeck. I know that the leaders of the SS Waffen, as well as the regiment of the SS Waffen, whose seat was in the same building where I worked, participated directly in all the expulsions of the Jews from the district of Lublin. In these expulsions, thousands of persons were killed on the spot and the rest sent away for extermination. I myself saw how in the winter of 1941, the SS Waffen of 21 Warschauer Street participated in the deportation of some 100 Jews to Majdanek, when several persons were killed on the spot. At that time, my father was also deported because of his long beard, as this action mainly concerned Jews with beards. I know that Rottenführer Mohrwinkel directed this action and was promoted to the rank of Untersturmführer for it. I worked for the Waffen-SS till November 1942, that is, until I was transported to Radom. The same persons participated the whole time in all the crimes of the SS in Lublin and district. I wish to point out that these SS men kept their horses in the stables on the aerodrome, where there was a notice, Mounted Regiment, SS Waffen. Then the next document is D953, which will be GB 564.
I think you should give the witness an opportunity of explaining that document if he wants to.
If your Lordship pleases. Witness, you heard me reading out that last affidavit of Israel Eisenberg. You see that he alleges that the Waffen-SS participated directly in the collection of Jewish people for extermination, and he refers to the Mounted Regiment SS Waffen that was in the Lublin district engaged in these operations. Those were men of the Waffen-SS, weren't they?
Die Namen, die vorgelesen waren, waren keine Offiziernamen. Es hieß ja Rottenführer und Scharführer. Ich kann natürlich nicht Namen von irgendeinem Verbande kennen. Ich habe keinen Beweis, dass das Angehörige der Waffen-SS sind. Im Jahre 1942 standen die Fronten ja nicht bei Lublin, sondern wesentlich weiter ostwärts. Es sind vielleicht Ersatzeinheiten gewesen. Es fiel einmal der Name Reitereinheit, dass ein Ersatztruppenteil der Reiterbrigade das gewesen ist, über die ich Näheres nicht angeben kann.
Are you merely seeking to distinguish between Waffen-SS units engaged in action in the line and Waffen-SS units engaged in murderous activity in the rear? Is that the point you're seeking to make to the tribunal?
Zu Aufgaben hinter der Front können nur mal Truppenteile der Ersatzeinheiten herangezogen waren, denn die anderen Einheiten standen dauernd an der Front.
This affidavit establishes perfectly clearly that these were SS troops, does it not? What other troops could they be? Mounted Regiment SS Waffen.
Ja, wenn's Reiter, es könnten ja auch SD-Einsatzgruppen gewesen sein, die ja im Hinterland ihre Aufgaben hatten.
Masquerading under the name of Mounted Regiment SS Waffen, you think?
Unwahrscheinlich.
It's quite clear they must have been SS troops, is it not? I want you to turn to another document which might assist you in this matter. D953. It will be a GB 566. The last is GB 565. I beg your Lordship's pardon. This will be GB 565. That is an affidavit by David Vajnapel. A few weeks after the entry of the German troops into Radom, police and SS authorities arrived. At the very moment of their arrival, the conditions became immediately worse. The house in Zeromskist, where their headquarters was, became a menace to the entire population. People who were walking in this street were dragged into the gateway, and ill-treated by merciless beatings and by the staging of sadistic games. All members of the SS, officers as well as other ranks, took part in this. Being a physician, I often had the opportunity to give medical help to seriously injured victims of the SS. After a short time, the SS uniform became a menace to the population. I myself was beaten up till I bled by 4 SS other ranks in the street, in spite of my doctor's armament. Later on, 2 ghettos were established in Radom. In August 1942, the so-called deportation took place. The ghettos were surrounded by many SS units who occupied all the street exits. People were driven out to the streets, and those who ran were fired at. Sick people at home or in hospitals were shot on the spot. Among others, also the sick people who were in the hospital where I was working as a doctor. The total number of people killed amounted to about 4,000. About 3,000 people were spared, and the rest, about 20,000 people, were sent to Treblinka. The whole action was directed and executed by the SS. I myself saw that the SS staff were on the spot, forming a group and issuing orders. In the streets and in the houses, SS men ill-treated and killed people without waiting for orders. After the deportation, the remaining group of people were massed in a few narrow lanes of the SS, who used to hire us out for payment to various firms. I know that these payments were credited to a special SS account at the Radom Bank M. Zinci. We were visited by SS men only. Executions carried out by the SS in the ghetto itself were a frequent occurrence. On the 14th of January 1943, another deportation to Treblinka took place. On the 21st of March 1943, in the whole district, there took place the so-called action against the intelligentsia, which action, as I know, was decided upon in an SS and police Führer's meeting in Radom. In Radom alone, about 200 people were shot at that time. Among others, my parents, my brother, and his 9-month-old child met their death. On 9th November of the same year, all Jewish children up to 12 years of age, as well as the old and sick, were gathered from Radom and from camps situated near Radom and shot in the Bayala street in Radom. Both SS officers and other ranks participated in this. From March 1943, I stayed 18 months in Blitzen camp. The camp was entirely under the SS and Radom police chief's control. Its commandant was Untersturmführer Paul Nell. The guards were composed of SS privates and NCOs. The foremen were Waffen-SS men who had been wounded at the front. Both behaved in an inhuman manner by beating and ill-treating us. Shootings of people were frequent occurrences. Originally, sentences were passed by the SS and police Führer, later on by the camp commandant. The SS other ranks knew very well about the bloody deeds which were committed by the SS in Poland. In particular, they told me personally about mass murders of Jews in Majdanek in November 1943. This fact was no secret. It was common knowledge among the civil population, as well as amongst the lowest-ranking SS men. When the camp was taken over by the Majdanek concentration camp, new guards were sent to our camp, but there was no difference between them and the previous ones. In July 1944, the whole camp, including myself, was sent to Auschwitz camp, which could be entered only by SS men. The conditions of this camp are well known. I escaped during the evacuation of this camp into Germany. On the way, the SS escort machine-gunned exhausted prisoners, and later on, the rest of the marching column. Several hundred people were killed at that time. Now, witness throughout that affidavit, the participation of SS troops is underlined. Do you deny the SS participation in the murders of Jewish people in view of affidavits like that?
Es ist ausdrücklich gesprochen worden in dem Dokument von der Polizei und SS. Dort, wo die Polizei mit dem SD arbeitet, ist die Waffen-SS nicht. Von den Lagern, deren Name genannt wurden, habe ich mehrfach betont, dass sie mit der Waffen-SS nichts gemeinsam hatten, wie leider teilweise den Namen. Von allen Beispielen, die der Herr Ankläger hier erwähnt hat, muss ich nur zugeben, dass die Mitteilung über die Division Prinz Eugen und vielleicht auch die Reitereinheiten bei Warschau Angehörige der Waffen-SS sind. Weiter kann ich aufgrund eigener Erfahrung nichts sagen.
I think you should read the last paragraph.
The last paragraph might help you with regard to this. I emphasize that during the few years of war, being a Jew and a doctor, I met a great number of SS men from Waffen-SS, as well as other formations and of various ranks. But I must state that I noticed no difference between them as far as their inhuman attitude towards the civilian population was concerned. The Waffen-SS was always at call for any of these actions of the executive against the local population, was it not? That was its function in the whole setup of the
Nein, das war nicht ihre
Nazi
Funktion.
state.
Die Waffen-SS war einrangiert in das Heer.
Did you ever, on this particular point, see Hitler's directive about the future of the SS?
Ich habe die Frage nicht verstanden.
Did you ever see Hitler's directive?
Anordnung von Hitler über die Zukunft der SS kenne ich nicht.
Yes. Got D665. In that directive, which is, I think, familiar to the tribunal, it is the document D665 GB 280. Hitler points out that the function of the Waffen-SS is to be the spearhead of Nazism and to be used as an agent for executive action against resistance at home and against opposition in foreign countries. Did you not see those instructions of Hitler on the role of the Waffen-SS?
Ist das vielleicht eine Weisung, die von Hitler an die militärischen Dienststellen ging und die über die Zukunft der Waffen-SS nach einem Kriege sprach?
That was a directive of 1941, which was distributed to regimental units and was made available to the Waffen-SS. I haven't got the document available at the moment. Are you saying you didn't hear of that?
Nein. Von diesem Befehl ich kenne nur einen Befehl, und zwar mündlich, der Maßnahmen oder Absichten enthielt über die Organisation nach dem Kriege, der nur an die Heereseinheiten gegangen ist.
A convenient time to break our lordship.
This is a final affidavit from a Jewish merchant, Moses Goldberg, and it reads, on the 23rd of June 1941, I was called up into the Soviet army in Lemberg. In the middle of July, I was taken prisoner by the Germans at a locality 5 kilometers from Podwol-Okchik. The SS companies sought the Jews out of the whole mass of prisoners and shot them on the spot. I remained alive, as they did not recognize me as a Jew. I stress the fact that it was the Waffen-SS who did this. After my captivity was ended, I lived in Radom and worked from June 1942 to July 1944 for the Waffen-SS at 3 places. The SS Veterinary Reinforcement Detachment, Kosinksi Street, the Garrison Administration of the Waffen-SS, Plante 11, and the Building Directorate of the Waffen-SS, Slovaki Street 27. As I worked so long for the SS, I know the names and faces of all the officers and NCOs of the above-named detachments of the Waffen-SS very well. At the head of the SS Veterinary Reinforcement Detachment were Sturmbannführer Dr. Held and Hauptsturmführer Schreiner. At the head of the garrison administration, there was Obersturmführer Grabau, and at the head of the building directorate, Oberscharführer Seiler. All the persons mentioned took a direct part, together with their companies, in carrying out the expulsions in Radom on the 5th, 16th and 17th August 1942, during which some thousands of people were shot on the spot. I know that the SS veterinary reinforcement companies went to the provincial town to carry out the expulsions of the Jews. I heard individual soldiers boasting about the number of Jews they had killed. I know from their own stories that these same companies participated in the actions against Polish partisans and also set the surrounding Polish villages on fire. Witness, do you still say that the Waffen-SS had no part in the atrocities that were committed in Poland?
Ich habe den Eindruck, dass dieses Dokument unglaubwürdig ist. Wie können sich die Einheiten von Veterinärkompanien an derartigen Maßnahmen beteiligen? Weiteres kann ich nicht sagen, weil ich die Verbände nicht kenne.
It is a document by a man who worked for 2 years for the Waffen-SS, who knew them personally, who spoke to them. He's a man of 36 years, who suffered at their hands. And he has mentioned in detail the Waffen-SS units concerned. Do you still say that the Waffen-SS had no part in these matters?
Es sind rückwärtige Einheiten, die anscheinend zur Waffen-SS nicht gehörten. Weiter kann ich nicht sagen.
Do you know the names of any of the officers who are mentioned in this letter?
Nein.
Have you ever been in Radom?
Nein.
Do you know whether there were Waffen-SS at any of these places named in this letter, in this affidavit?
Ich habe Euer Lordschaft nicht verstanden.
Do you know whether there were Waffen-SS headquarters of units at any of the places named in this affidavit?
Einheiten der in das Heer einrangierten Divisionen haben dort meines Wissens nicht gelegen. Auch kein Hauptquartier.
Well, the person making the affidavit states the units which were quartered at particular places in Radom. And what I was asking you was whether you knew that there were units stationed at those places.
Nein, das kann ich nicht sagen.
Witness, you have said that the Waffen-SS units respected international law and committed no atrocities in the field.